Hi there, students. This is a screencast on part one of the Program Evaluation and Planning Proposal, PEPP. So the PEPP is divided into 5 parts. You turn in one part at a time, except for part 5, you turn in with the final PEPP. And this is a focus on just part 1. So because we're focusing on part 1, I'm going to go over this first page just a little bit with you. The purpose of this program evaluation and planning proposal is for you to create a program evaluation proposal for a special education program or delivery model. All right, so there's a couple of key words here. This is a proposal. We are not actually conducting the program evaluation. I wish we could, but in 8 weeks we cannot. Um, we are just writing it out as if we are, and then we're going to do hypothetical results and recommendations at the end. The second important part is program or delivery model. We are not looking at curriculum. We are not looking at your math curriculum or your sight word curriculum. We are looking at a program or a delivery model. So that might be co-teaching. That might be an inclusive classroom. Maybe it's a separate class or a CBI model or preschool special needs, kindergarten special needs, an autism classroom or autism classrooms. So we're not looking at curriculum here. We're looking at program or delivery models. The best way to decide what you might write this on is what kind of classroom are you teaching in? Are you doing resource or co-teaching or separate class? And it's actually a little bit beyond just your classroom. I want you to look a little bit more at the school or district level. So maybe you're a preschool special needs teacher, but you're going to look at all the preschool special needs classrooms in the district to get an overall large picture of the program and if that program or delivery model is effective. All right, so you might be looking at co-teaching and not just your co-teaching classroom, unless you're taking a very deep dive into your one classroom. I'd like for you to look at co-teaching at your school or within multiple grade levels. Same with resource, not just your resource classroom, but maybe the resource classrooms within the school or within all elementary schools, maybe within all middle schools, maybe within all high schools. You might be looking at a CBI program or any type of program that is not a curriculum, basically, or that is a delivery model in special education. All right, so we have some course objectives that we're going to meet here. And the special education program and EDS at the University of West Georgia, we follow the Council for Exceptional Children Advanced Standards. So these are the standards that this one proposal addresses. All right, here's you a task. Again, you're going to choose a Georgia DOE special delivery model. I also have on here multi-tiered system of supports. A lot of times we have speech language pathologists in our classes and they like to do something a little bit different. Maybe they're doing MTSS with speech language pathology. But even if you are an SLP, you could do pull out speech services. You could do push in speech services. Like you could look at a variety of things, even as an SLP. There's multiple delivery models as an SLP. All right, so I also have multi-tiered system of supports here in case you are the school's behavioral coach or academic coach and you don't have one specific classroom that you want to look at. All right, you're going to develop the proposed plan for the program evaluation. It's got 5 sections or 5 parts. Please use this template. This template is not only beneficial for your instructor to grade, but it's also beneficial for you to make sure that you're not leaving parts out or skipping parts. And then finally, be sure to look at this attached rubric. So look at it throughout the time so that you can make sure that you are meeting the standard as we think you should at the University of West Georgia's EDS in special education. All right, so let's move on to part one. Part one, you're going to list and describe your special education delivery model or program chosen. So first you're going to list it and then you're going to describe it. So multiple school districts or even schools within a district use different acronyms. They use different words. I recently learned that two different districts both have a bridge program, but they're very different from one another. So what I want you to do is to be able to describe your classroom, your program in terms that are beyond just the labels your school or district use. So when you use research and citations, you're going to need to know, okay, maybe I have a bridge program for students with autism and it's a separate class, but that's not what it's called in the research literature. In the research literature, it's called maybe a separate class for children with autism, or it's called a transition classroom. So I want you to be able to describe that delivery model beyond the acronyms, beyond the terms that your school or your district calls it. And I want you to dig into the research to find out, what does the research say about that model? What should it look like? What should it really be? Oftentimes we learn about these models and these different ideas at research conferences or through social media, or through the Georgia DOE, and we implement them, but we don't always implement them with fidelity. So, what does this actually look like in the research literature? When you're going into the literature, I highly recommend, don't just Google it, go to Google Scholar, which will give you real research articles, or go to our university library. All right, next, rationale. Why did you choose to evaluate this program? So, you likely chose it because it's the classroom you teach in. But let's go a little bit beyond that. Let's go to, what are you interested in? Maybe you got parent feedback that you guys don't communicate with the parents enough. Maybe you got administrator feedback that you guys don't um, aren't meeting the students' goals and objectives or aren't meeting the standards as you should. Maybe you're just curious. Maybe you notice that you really want to look into something. When I was a preschool special needs teacher, I really was concerned and curious about least restrictive environment, and were we providing our students with the most appropriate education, and that was least restrictive. And I was very curious about that. And that's probably something that I personally would have wanted to look into. All right, part one, letter C, the quality features of the program. You can keep this bullet pointed. Okay. You don't have to go into super detail, and no one's really going to fact check you on the number of years that your staff have in your classroom. So just do your very best to fill this out to the best of your ability, and not everything is going to be applicable. For example, right here, if you're preschool special needs, secondary transition, not applicable. But if you're preschool special needs, babies can't wait to preschool special needs, very applicable. All right. And then lastly, you're going to go down to part D, your focus area. So I'm going to use the preschool special needs as an example here. I want to evaluate preschool special needs. Well, what about the preschool special needs do I want to evaluate? The whole program, that's large. That's a bit out of our scope right now. Maybe I want to evaluate the LRE, the least restrictive environment. Maybe I want to evaluate the inclusive practices. Maybe I want to evaluate the transition process from babies can't wait to preschool special needs, or preschool special needs into kindergarten. Lots of different things you could evaluate there. If I was co-teaching, I might want to evaluate the interaction and teaming and communication among the teachers. I may want to evaluate student success in social, emotional, and in academics. I might want to evaluate if I was doing CBI, or if I was doing something that I'm going out and the students are doing community work. I might want to evaluate the partners that we're working with, and what types of organizations we're working with. So lots of different things here that you can evaluate. But I really want you to focus in so that it makes your life easier as we keep going. Okay, so that is part one. So before I let you go, I'm going to go to the, let's see here, the template first. So in the template, you have part one, you have your special education delivery model, 1 to 2 research citations within your description. And again, please don't use a ton of acronyms. Let us know information about it. Your rationale, you're going to write that here. Your quality features, you're going to put that here. Keep these headers, please. It just makes the grading easier. And again, you won't be skipping parts. And then you're going to have your focus. All right. So all of that right here. I'm going to make a couple of notes on tips. The tips are in the directions I just showed you previous to the template. Use third person tense. So instead of I am evaluating this process or this program, you're going to use the evaluator as evaluating this program. Okay. I'm evaluating this program because I teach in this program. All right. Instead of that, the evaluator is evaluating this program because the evaluator teaches. All right. So you're going to use third person tense throughout. You're going to use research citations. And now let's go ahead and look at the rubric. Here's part one, and here's the rubric. All right. So, obviously I'd like for you to shoot for 4 points. So be sure to go ahead and look at all of that. You're using citations, you're using 12-point font in Times New Roman. You're using double spacing where appropriate. If you're bullet pointing, you don't have to use double spacing. So be sure to go ahead and look at part one. I also encourage you to go to the last page and go ahead and look at these items as well. We're going to be using 5 credible sources. There's the APA formatting. Did you use the template? Was it relevant? Was it professional? And was it of high quality? So all of that. One of the things here, person first. That means the child with autism instead of the autistic child. So in your writing, you should not write special education students. You should write students who qualify for special ed or students who have disabilities. So using that person first. And at the University of West Georgia, you have access to free Grammarly Premium. So please use Grammarly Premium. And also be cautious of using AI or Chat GPT. Our plagiarism detection detects all of that. It detects the AI. It also detects if you are copying and pasting, even if you copy paste from a research article and then you cite it. If you're doing copy paste, you need to quote it. Okay, so we'll be checking all of that at the very end. We're not going to check it until the end because what happens is when you submit your work in a class and we use Turnitin and then you submit that work again, it's going to say you plagiarized somebody else's work. And it's not going to tell us whose work. It's just going to say someone else at a university. So we will do a plagiarism and an AI check at the very end when you turn in the final PEPP. Okay, students, so that is part one, and good luck. Please let us know if you have any questions, if you are concerned about what your program model is. That's the trickiest part of part one. What's your model and what's your focus? We will help you with that. So reach out to your instructor. Thanks so much for listening.